we're getting to a point where with grain harvest weight sharing, we know what's on the cart for weight. With our auto unload, we know where that weight is on the cart in relation to how it's stacking up. With our MachineSync, we're driving the carts forward, backward, left, right. And what else do you want? I mean, we can unload that auger and have a consistent weight on the cart every single time.
Yep.
No spills, no oopses, nothing. So it's pretty awesome.
You won't be able to blame the grain cart driver anymore. So
if there will be a grain cart driver.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the FarmCast. We are live on location here in Sterling, Colorado today. I'm Troy Randall, our lead technology specialist, and I'm joined with the returning face today, Preston Juneman with our Precision Ag team. Welcome, Preston.
Thanks for having me.
As you can see today, we're standing in front of a new S7 700 combine here. So we're going to be talking about combines today and some new enhancements and the features with those and things we're going to be able to look forward to when it comes to harvest for this fall. So Preston, I guess I'll kind of let you kick it off here, but give some of your experience with these S7 machines. We're just on the tail end of wheat harvest right here. So we've had these out a little bit. We've had some customers running, but what's been your experience so far with these S7 machines?
They're absolute monsters. I mean, I think I've alluded to that in the past. But no, these things picked up efficiency and picked up productivity just from that increased throughput. So they're really awesome machines, and the technology on them, I think, is the most important part.
Yep, and that's been really cool to see. So we've had a few of these machines out in wheat harvest so far here over the past couple of weeks. We're just in Northeast Colorado. We're kind of wrapping up with wheat harvest here, and wheat harvest is just kicking off into Panhandle, Nebraska as we're filming this right here. So, but we've had a few customers be able to get these out in wheat harvest so far, and I would say, the big thing we totaled last year was that 20% productivity increase, and I will say that is real because we actually have a few customers that have these machines out, and we've seen almost 20 probably % plus productivity increase. And in some cases, a customer that's running two 800s with some 45-foot hinge draper heads, they've been running them, and they've seen anywhere from 6 to 7 acres per hour increase when they're actually using that full suite of technology. So that predictive ground speed automation, that harvest settings automation. And the cool thing is too, we have some new reports with an ops center too to actually start to look at that technology utilization, especially with these machines and like our See and Spray machines. We can actually go in there, see, what's our productivity when those technologies are on, when they're off. So that's where it's really easy to see, are we actually getting that at performance out of these machines when we're running these added technologies? So very cool to see theirs.
Yeah, and it's not been just like, we're not talking minute differences, right? When we see technology on versus technology off, it is pretty dang substantial. I mean, acres per hour wise, which, 20%, we tout that as an average, right? Corn, wet corn, you're probably not going to see as much, but like in wheat and dry crops, beans, where you can actually fully utilize the speed and that crop's flowing evenly through the header, that's where you really get the main benefit.
And one of my customers too, they pretty much figured out with that added benefit, they can almost shave a day off their harvest if everything goes well, because they're gaining maybe 6 to 10 acres per hour increase in some places. So when you add that up over the day, that does actually equate to less time, less money spent, less hours on the machine too. So, and they did notice too, like we said in the past, they did have a little bit of more horsepower. They have some, less parasitic loss through the drivetrain, through gearboxes, more belts, things like that. And that they definitely did notice that increased horsepower too. So that was a good benefit there too. And that's just on the machine side though. They are really keen to all the technology too. They've taken full advantage of all the new technologies in there too with these new machines. So it's been great to see. So,
and how successful have you guys been with importing that satellite imagery?
So very good. So yep. So that's been a great new feature of this year with these machines. So we have those forward-facing cameras. So we have that predictive ground speed automation. So as long as we have it all set up in opposite or beforehand, we have those boundaries. We let it process on the backside, and then we can send those work plans now automatically, which is awfully nice. So that's a new feature too. So if we do have these new machines, it makes it much easier to make sure those work plans get sent automatically. But then once they're in the machine, that background predictive yield map shows up, and then it gives us a good representation of the possible yield and the variability in that field. So one more cool new thing we have with these machines that just came out here a couple weeks ago is we're actually taking that same camera and putting it out on the auger. So what's that?
So that is auto unload. So what auto unload's doing is obviously we're mounting that camera out on the auger, and it's a different camera than what we're used to that, it lets us visually see what's in the grain tank or what's in our truck that we're loading. This auto unload is kind of further back, and it's going to use like a set of eyes. It's two cameras side by side, and basically we're calibrating where the front and the rear of our grain cart is, and then that thing is actually unloading and visualizing the elevation of the grain so that it can pile that grain consistently front to back. You can load middle, back, then front, however you want to load the cart. it'll do that for you using MachineSync. So we're kind of taking some of those technologies that we've used since 2018 and kind of bringing that all together with auto unload. And it's really cool to see all that kind of be pieced together, and you see multiple different technologies come together into one really cool system.
Yeah, it's like Preston said, we're pretty much taking that exact same camera that we have in the front, and we're putting it on the auger so it can pretty much see right into the tank. For guys running choppers, we've actually had something similar to that called active fill for years and years. That's been around for quite a while. So this is pretty much similar to that same technology, but now on combines. It's going to just automate for now. It's just came out this year, so it'll be available for pretty much all our new S7 machines, and even it's something we can retrofit all the way back to model year 20 and newer 700 series combines as well. So if it's something you're interested in, we can help you get set up with that too.
Well, and yeah, just to be very clear with the auto unload, we're not speeding up and slowing down the combine. We're not moving the auger of the combine. We're actually controlling the grain cart speed. So that tractor pulling the grain cart is going to speed up or slow down based on what those cameras are seeing, which is what makes it awesome.
Yep. And so it's pretty much just taking out that nudge, that fore and aft nudge that we're typically controlling with the MachineSync. So it's just going to auto fore and aft nudge for now. So like I said, it's going to get better with time. So looking in the future, it might start to automate more things. Like it might start to automate, turn the auger on and off. It might start to automate the spout. It might actually start to automate the whole process of swinging the auger in and out. And eventually full autonomy is the goal too. So towards the future, it'll become completely autonomous on its own on these machines too. So you might just see the cart tractor pull up, and then it does everything, unloads, swings out, turns on the auger, dumps, and pulls it back in and sends the cart on its way. So
yeah, we're getting to a point where we know, we haven't talked about it yet, but with grain harvest weight sharing, we know what's on the cart for weight. With our auto unload, we know where that weight is on the cart in relation to how it's stacking up. With our MachineSync, we're driving the carts forward, backward, left, right if we're not using controlled traffic. And what else do you want? I mean, we can unload the combine onto the cart. We'll know when we need to shut that combine down because we know how much grain is in the auger. We can unload that auger and have a consistent weight on the cart every single time.
Yep.
No spills, no oopses, nothing. So it's pretty awesome.
You won't be able to blame the grain cart driver anymore. So
yeah, if there will be a grain cart driver. No, so right here we're holding basically our core components for auto unload. So Troy's got the controller, which stacks on top of our lead BPU for our forward-looking cameras. Very easy. The plug's already there. Basically, we're just installing the hardware, plugging it in, doing some software, and away we go. And then here, I've got the two cameras that do our auto unload out on the middle of the auger. So just like I said, we have a pair of eyes. We have one camera here and one camera here, and they're basically working in tandem, kind of overlapping their view to do what they need to do.
Yep, and that camera feeds it down to this vision controller, and this talks with the rest of the machine, and that's pretty much automates our fore and aft for now with our auto unload on the MachineSync side. So
what does install look like?
Very, very easy on S7 machines. Like I said, these are pre-wired for it. So it'd be a little more involved on those model year 20 to 24 machines. We do have to add some harnessing things depending what they do and don't have. And then some requirements on the display side. We will require a G5 on the combine to run the system. It's pretty demanding, so we do need that additional horsepower of that G5 display. And we also will need that G5 advanced license plus the auto unload license to go along with it too, to fully utilize this too. And then on the cart side, we will highly recommend to have a G5 and that cart tractor too, but a Gen 4 will work as of right now too. But if you're utilizing the latest and greatest technology, why not have a G5 and the cart tractor too? So kind of going back to auto unload. So we did actually have one customer that ran it during wheat harvest on their machine, and they pretty much loved it because they pretty much they do something unique where they kind of use the multiple home points. They kind of have a staging home point, and then they can bring the cart tractor in to when they unload. So pretty much as soon as they brought the cart tractor in, swung the auger out, started unloading, auto unload took over, and then you pretty much didn't really see anything happen over there, didn't hear anything. Even the cart tractor pretty much just was being automatically controlled with that auto unload. So very, very cool system, and awesome to see it work as good as it did, and then it'll be awesome to see how it gets better over time too. So Preston, we just talked about the latest and greatest, which is auto unload, but that's built off MachineSync, but we've had MachineSync out for quite a while. So what's some updates and enhancements we can look forward to for this fall for MachineSync?
So if you ran during wheat harvest, you probably noticed it. One of the biggest annoyance was you'd fire up the grain cart to go unload the combine for the first time in the day. Why is my MachineSync not working? Oh, well, it's got to be turned on every single time. So one thing that came with 25.2 software that you probably would have noticed if you ran during wheat is on key on, it's asking you, hey, MachineSync was turned on. Do you want to leave it on? And so we just have to hit OK, and MachineSync's basically ready to go for when we pull up next to the combine. So yeah, that's been great.
And then on the combine side, it stays on all the time too without the prompt, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
yep.
so that's very nice.
It's always on.
Yep, so very nice. So one less thing to worry about, because that's always been a complaint in the past is, guys have to go in there every time they key cycle, turn MachineSync on. So not a huge deal, but just kind of that nuisance here and there. So
we're trying to eliminate that communication back and forth between, hey, turn your MachineSync on, or,
And some other enhancements too. So with that new software, if you did run it in wheat harvest, or going to be running it for corn harvest this fall with the latest software, it seemed like MachineSync always had quite a few beeps and bops on the cart side. So luckily they've kind of reduced those. So if you nudge it less than 2 feet, either fore and aft or a couple inches side to side, it's not actually going to change from tracking to acquiring. It's going to stay in that tracking state with those small shifts. So it makes it much less noisy if you're making those large shifts in the cart or combine side. So
I mean, that caused some confusion for the operator. They were always like, why is this thing beeping? They thought they had to intervene, but yeah, it just gets rid of a little bit of that.
And then some requirements for MachineSync. What's something that came out with last year that really helped out with our connectivity with MachineSync?
Got to have those external communication antennas. So we're putting not only an additional antenna on the combine side. It looks like an RTK radio antenna.
Yeah, so as you can see it on this machine right there. So
so we've got it on this machine behind us, but we're also requiring that if you're in kind of a remote area, or just kind of up and down hills, we highly recommend the follower to have it. Anymore, it's a requirement that within 21st, we say if you're doing MachineSync, you might as well have that antenna on every machine that's going to be using
MachineSync. Very bare minimum. We did some testing last year. You want it on the combine. Sometimes you can get away without it on the tractor, but if you run into issues, we'd highly suggest you have that nice antenna on both the leader and the follower. So,
which that does bring up another good point. Another thing that we saw from last fall to this summer was what?
Communication dropouts and interference.
Yes. So what Deere has done is we had issues with Bluetooth communication kind of interfering with our Wi-Fi, and that was causing some high communication latency kickouts. Deere's fixed that. If you've got one of the new style touchscreen radios in your follower machines, definitely get that updated, as well as in the leaders. These new combines have that new touchscreen. They call it a Harmon radio. So make sure you get the new software put on that. It's very easy to do. We can get it from Stellar Support.
Yep. It definitely helps out. And we ran it a little bit during wheat harvest, and it made life much easier, and didn't have those issues we saw last fall. So Preston, looking forward, these S7 machines are brand new this year, but already looking towards the future. What are some features and enhancements we're going to be able to utilize with the model year 26 machines?
So in model year 26, we're going to get an awesome feature adding on to the AutoTrack turn automation that we've had with combines in the past. Model year 26, we're going to see that header functionality be brought forth into that as well. So not only turning that machine around, but also raising the header while we're turning the machine around, setting the header back down, just helping us be more consistent in those turns. Usually equates to efficiency, right?
Yep. And so how that's going to actually function is it's going to automate your 3-2-1 buttons. So if we're used to our 3-2-1 buttons, pretty much that's going to be, just like we have turn automation in our tractors now. As soon as you get to that headland, it's going to pretty much push automatically, trigger your 1 button to raise your header, turn the machine around, and then you can most likely set it to either trigger your 2 or your 3 button to lower that header back down and engage all your header resume functionality, and then away you go. But you still have to modulate the speed right now, so I haven't quite got that far, but like I said, it'll get better with time, and it'll get there eventually. So, and then we also have some updates to the forward-looking cameras too, if you want to share about those.
Yeah, so the forward-looking camera is the biggest thing. Obviously, they're going to be able to detect waterways and ditches, on top of the down crop. But one thing that we're kind of excited about is being able to detect weed pressure. So just like See & Spray detects weed pressure today, we're going to use those cameras on the combine as well to detect that weed pressure, so that we can help us make better decisions and be more proactive in our residual post passes that we make, or our burn down passes after we make that harvest pass.
Yeah, but that's been a big ask, because we had a lot of adoption on the See & Spray side over the years. So guys are getting used to seeing that weed pressure map. So we have the technology, the capabilities on these new combines, so why not integrate that? So that's going to be just one more layer. We have visibility to an op center. So like you said, it's going to be great for our See & Spray guys to, they almost kind of have that weed pressure map as they go through the field with the sprayer. We'll have it on the front side now to better plan out, where what's our weed pressure going to look like out in those fields.
So yeah, one thing that we did see updates with is with the HarvestLab. Troy, can you elaborate more on those updates?
Yep. So luckily on these newer machines, HarvestLab is fully compatible with these new Molly 25, S7 and X9 machines. They did redesign the system, how that mounts on the clean grain elevator where that HarvestLab goes. So we did have some guys run it here recently, and it works much better, and it's a much smoother system, a lot less moving parts, and does actually, if we had problems with kind of clogging in certain crops, we definitely did alleviate that with this new design and layout of how that HarvestLab system works. So some good updates on the display side of these HarvestLabs is now on these newer machines, they're actually fully integrated into that G5 display. So no longer do we have that separate ISO bus layout and feel. It's all integrated into its own app and makes life much easier. It's a lot more intuitive and a lot more what you're used to have that add-on system through the ISO bus. So, and then some updates for the HarvestLab 2 down the road, we'll be able to actually on the chopper side too, and probably the combine side, put offsets and adjust those constituents too. So like in the combine, for starch levels, if they don't quite match up between machines, or maybe if we're taking those samples to a standalone test station somewhere, a lab, and we're just a little bit off, we want to dial those in, we'll be able to actually make those adjustments to those constituents to make sure we're pretty much dialed in with those readings on our HarvestLab. So with the HarvestLabs, the big question we've always had is, what's the value in those? Well, it really depends on kind of what your goal is. So we have a few out there, then all depends on the end user and kind of what your goal is as a producer and what's the value you're trying to get out of that unit. So we have some guys that use it for seed wheat and are trying to better track and manage their protein levels, or they're trying to track their protein from the wheat crop this year and then see how that protein level changes and how much nitrogen they might need for their corn crop next year, or maybe even know how much residual nitrogen they have from the previous crop too. But something else we're starting to look into as well is, those real-time readings coming off the machine. So we actually did a demo here a couple weeks ago with a customer, and we had a HarvestLab on our demo machine, and they were actually cutting around the outside, and they ran some different test strips, and they wanted to run that HarvestLab machine through those test strips to see, real time, what do those test strips look like? And then even some guys are starting to wrap their heads around, if they can manage things like protein, so we'll be able to better track and maybe bend that crop in different areas, depending on those protein levels we're getting off these machines. So just better store those crops and or get a premium, depending if we're getting premium for higher or low protein in certain areas too. So just better manage and utilize how we're effectively using that grain coming off that combine. So
yeah, using the data and then allowing you to sort and kind of manipulate how you want to sell your grain, right?
Yep, exactly. So that's the value we're starting to see in these HarvestLabs. So if you're interested in anything we've talked about here today with combines or anything precision ag or latest and greatest technology, be sure to join us at our High Plains Ag Expo. Put it down on your calendar for February 25th of 2026 for next year. It's going to be a great time. We'll be there talking about all the latest greatest technologies. We'll have the latest and greatest machinery there too. So if you're interested in that, be sure to join us there. Well, thanks, Preston, for giving us some good updates on our new combines and had some successes we've had throughout the year so far, then things to look forward to for this fall. So with things like new technologies for these combines, new enhancements for MachineSync, auto load, that's going to be a cool one, and everything else we've kind of talked about today. So thanks again for giving us some insight into that. Again, I'm Troy Randall with the FarmCast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Let's do a little show and tell piece.
All right, so today I'm just kidding.